Aloha and good morning, everyone. It is Thursday, January 15, 2026, and the time is now 9:03 a.m. Will the Committee on Zoning and Planning meeting please come to order? I would like to welcome committee members, Councilmember Cordero, as well as Councilmember Okimoto. Although remote verbal testimony is being permitted, this is a regular in-person meeting and not a remote meeting by interactive conference technology under HRS Section 92-3.7. Therefore, the meeting will continue notwithstanding loss of audio-visual communication with remote testifiers or loss of the public broadcast of the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide verbal testimony on all items on the agenda when each item is taken up in two ways, in person in the council chamber and remotely via video conference or phone. Before testifying, each person shall state their name for the record. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and will be limited to a 1-minute presentation per item. All persons who register to testify in person will be called upon first. Persons who did not register will be given an opportunity to offer testimony after the registered testifiers. Once in-person testimony has concluded, I will proceed to the remote testifiers. When I call your name with the last 3 digits of your phone number, please follow the prompts to unmute, as both English and Hawaiian are official languages of the state of Hawaii, pursuant to Article 15, Section 4 of the Hawaii State Constitution, and Section 113 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes. Members of the public may testify in either language. For verbal testimonies offered in Olelo, Hawaii, additional time as may be necessary will be allowed for the testifier to provide an English translation of their testimony. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off or silence all cell phones for the duration of this meeting. Moving to agenda item number 1, for extension of time only. Members, the first item on our agenda is to approve an extension of time only for Resolution 25-333. Verbal testimony will be limited to comments on the extension of time only, and we will not be discussing the substantive provisions of the resolution at today's meeting. Resolution 25-333, this resolution grants a special management area major permit to Robert Vavel to allow for the construction of a new single-unit dwelling pool, spa, garage, and recreation room on an approximately 13,230 square foot shoreline zoned R75 residential district located at 68-309 Crozier Drive in Waialua and identified as tax map key 68005-015. I will be recommending a 90-day extension of the deadline for council action on this resolution to give the committee more time to consider the measure since it was transmitted to the council right before Christmas last month. Members, for your information, the written request for a 90-day extension of time is available online as Miscellaneous Communications 2-2026. Before I call up the administration, I would like to take public testimony. Proceeding first with in-person testimony in the council chair. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Proceeding on with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item or anybody standing by?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. For the administration, we have Don Takeuchi Apuna, Director of the Department of Planning and Permitting.
Good morning, Chair, members. The department has no objections to this extension. Thank you.
Members, are there any questions for the Director? Or do you have any other questions before I make my recommendation? The Chair notes that the time needed to reconsider Resolution 25-333 may exceed the current deadline for council action. The Chair therefore recommends that the resolution be granted a 90-day extension of time pursuant to a request from the applicant's agent in Miscellaneous Communication 2-2026. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving to agenda item number 2 for action, Resolution 25-320. This resolution confirms the mayor's reappointment of Gina Thielen to serve on the Building Board of Appeals of the City and County of Honolulu for a term to expire on December 31st, 2030. Ms. Thielen is the construction manager at Complete Construction Services and will continue to provide representation on the board as the general contractor member. We have posted on the agenda a C1 version of the resolution, which I submitted For your information, a summary of the amendments is listed on the agenda. The CD1 makes technical amendments, including correcting the citation to the city charter and referencing the mayor's message number. I would like to call up the appointee to say a few words. I understand the appointee is online. If you could please introduce yourself and share a little about your current and envisioned future role on the Building Board of Appeals. Good to see you, Gina.
Good to see you as well, Chair. Thank you very much for your time. I've been an honor to serve on the Building Board of Appeals, and if it would please the committee and the council, I would be happy to extend for another term. I shared via written communication some concerns I have about how the board functions, and I'm not sure if the committee or the council is interested in revisiting the statutory language surrounding the Building Board of Appeals. But by and large, excuse me, we've had a difficult time being able to take affirmative action on behalf of any of the applicants because of this very limited interpretation of our authority in terms of the statutory language. So with that, I guess I would open it up to any questions about my background or about the Building Board of Appeals and the functionality.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? Actually, at this point, welcome, Chair Waters. Gina, do you mind? I think, you know, we've been working with you for a couple of years now. Could you talk more to the statutory changes that you were recommending and the justification for it? I'm assuming that you are proposing it because you see it as constraining the ability of the board members. Is that correct?
That's correct. And as I said in my written testimony, this is my interpretation and my opinion. It doesn't necessarily reflect the opinion of the board at large, although we've had a discussion as a board about this issue frequently. Essentially, what it boils down to is that in order for us to find in favor of the applicant, I'll read the statutory language so I don't get it wrong, is that the decision of the building official is based on an erroneous finding of material fact, is based on an arbitrary or capricious decision-making, or is a manifest abuse of discretion. Only when one of those three criteria is met may we find in favor of the applicant. And because the burden of proof is on the applicant and the majority of our applicants are simple homeowners without legal training, there's a challenge for us as a board to be helpful in situations where we feel it's warranted because that burden of proof can't be met.
Thank you so much. Members, any further questions? Thank you for your recommendations. We will take that under consideration, and I'm pretty sure that the DPP would like to take a look at it as well. Before I call up the administration, I would like to take public testimony. Proceeding first with in-person testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Proceeding on remote testimony, do we have any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. For the administration, again, we have Don Takeuchi Apuna, Director of the Department of Planning and Permitting.
Thank you, Chair. We are supportive of the reappointment of Ms. Thielen. We appreciate the work that she has done and will continue to do for the BBA. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you take a look at the recommendations that Gina had proposed in their testimony and give me your thoughts later, okay?
Later, okay.
Thank you so much. Members, are there any questions for the director, or do you have any discussions or questions? If not, the chair recommends that Resolution 25-320 be amended to the posted CD1. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, the resolution has been amended to a CD1. The chair then recommends that Resolution 25-320 CD1 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving to agenda item number 3, for action, Resolution 25-299. The resolution grants a special management area major permit to Margaret Taylor to allow for the construction of a new 2-story single dwelling unit with 2 covered decks attached 8-car garage, an internal above-grade swimming pool, and the installation of a gate and fence on an approximately 23,256 square foot shoreline zone R10 residential district with an existing single-unit dwelling on the Mauka portion of the property located at 430D North Kalaheo Avenue in Kailua and identified as tax map key 43017-019. We have posted on the agenda a CD1 version of the resolution, which I submitted for your information. A summary is listed on the agenda. 2 single-unit dwellings are allowed on the project site, but the project's conceptual plans do not appear to comply with land use ordinance development standards and requirements for the residential zoning districts. Condition B of the proposed CD1 requires the applicant to submit to the Department of Planning and Permitting revised projects plan showing that the new single-unit dwelling includes only 1 kitchen, only 1 laundry room, and a maximum of 4 bathrooms. Approximately 90% of the project site will be impacted by 3.2 feet of sea level rise by the year 2100. An existing dwelling is located on the Mauka portion of the project site, and the proposed new dwelling will be located in the Makai portion. There is approximately 60 feet of open lawn area between the 2 dwellings, but relocating the new dwelling further Mauka is unlikely to reduce impacts from sea level rise because the entire remaining buildable area of the project site is within the 3.2-foot sea level rise exposure area. Instead, the applicant has focused on designing a resilient foundation and elevating the habitable portions of the proposed dwelling approximately 4 feet above grade. Condition C2 of the proposed CD1 requires the applicant to acknowledge and take responsibility for the cleanup and restoration of the project site in the event of coastal hazard-related loss of property. In May 2025, the State Historic Preservation Division issued a letter indicating there was insufficient information to determine the potential for the project to impact subsurface archaeological sites or iwi kupuna, Native Hawaiian ancestral remains, because no archaeological inventory survey had been conducted for the project site. Previous archaeological research in the vicinity of the project documented archaeological sites including iwi kupuna and cultural layers. The division requested preparation of an archaeological inventory survey with subsurface testing for the project site. Condition G of the proposed CD1 includes conditions requiring the applicant to submit to the Department of Planning and Permitting a copy of the division's written acceptance of the project's archaeological inventory survey and to implement all mitigation protocols approved or otherwise required by the division. The project proposes to excavate approximately 343 cubic yards of soil material and use 288 cubic yards as fill to support grade berms, column footings, and concrete slabs. The remaining 55 cubic yards of excavated soil material will be used to infill across the project site. While no importation of soil or structure fill material is proposed, since construction equipment may transfer invasive pathogens, pests, or plants, their proposed CD1 includes condition J, which requires the applicant to comply with certain protocols to minimize the spread of invasive species. Joining us in the chamber is Mark Howland from Well Environmental Services, LLC, who will be providing a brief presentation. For your information, the presentation is available online as Miscellaneous Communication 1/2026.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you. Council members, thank you. This is Peggy Taylor's property, Resolution 25-299, as mentioned before. This is the locus on the property. It's one of the places where there's tremendous accretion of the shoreline. About 2.2 feet per year, the shoreline's gaining rather than the rest of the areas where they're mostly losing. The proposed actions, construction of a new single-family dwelling is for the Taylor's daughter. The parcel contains an existing house of the Taylors. This is a new one intended for private residential personal family use. It will never be used for short-term rental purposes. It's in excess of $500,000, required SMA major. Coordination of interested parties is required. We testified in front of the Kailua Neighborhood Board and also their subcommittee for planning and environmental. This is a diagram of the current boundary survey. As you can see, the Kailua Bay is and the beach is off-site. This is the proposed layout of the second dwelling on the property, and a full set of plans are found in the written statement. These are site photos. As you can see, it's mostly a grass lawn. The perimeters are walled. They're not walled into the shoreline setback. They stop at the shoreline setback. This is the soil map. As you can see, it's mostly Jacker sands. The beach sands are in the shoreline setback. As mentioned before, the 3.2 sea level rise covers most of the site. It's got a pretty high coastal berm, so it kind of floods behind the coastal berm and does creep into the present existing house. The erosion transit, as I said, has a tremendous accretion. It's predicted in 70 years to move out about 130 feet. Has most of Oahu shoreline, a Category 4 would affect this site, and again, it seems to be limited to the areas around the shoreline setback. The critical habitat for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife is confined to a proposal rather than a permanent situation. It's mainly probably for green sea turtles and monk seals. This is the plot plan for the property. As you can see, the locus, it comes off of an access drive off of the avenue. Again, with the work with the zoning and planning committee in the past, the city council and DPP, we thank all of you for the suggestions that are included in the resolution and the CD1, which we reviewed and discussed with the applicant and they accept. And so these conditions are all have been agreed to by the applicant. And if any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Thank you.
Members, any questions? Before I call up the administration, I would like to take public testimony, proceeding first with in-person testimony in the chamber. Do we have any in-person testifiers, clerk?
Chair, there are none.
Do we have any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
For the administration, we have Dawn Takeuchi Apuna, Director of the Department of Planning and Permitting.
Thank you, Chair. We have no objections to the proposed CD1. Thank you.
Members, are there any questions for the Director?
Chair, I do.
Yes, Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you, Committee Chair Kiaʻāina. Director Apuna, I was just wondering how often, and if it is, then through what process would DPP review approved changes we saw or heard in the proposed CD1 that it will go from 2 kitchens to 1, but within the SMAs?
So, I mean, I think we look at it when the request comes in, and then during the building permit process, if there, we would look at it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess it's just as a complaints basis if you get wind of another kitchen that was constructed or something?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
we would
thank you.
investigate.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Is there any further discussion? The chair recommends that Resolution 25-299 be amended to the posted CD1. Any discussions, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, the resolution has been amended to a CD1. The chair then recommends that Resolution 25-299 CD1 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Welcome, Councilmember Tupola. Moving to the next agenda item, members, we will now be taking up agenda item number 1, since this was an addendum. For action, Resolution 26-6. This resolution authorizes the execution of an amendment to the ground lease and a second amendment to the development agreement for a senior affordable rental housing project at the former Aiea Sugar Mill site located at 99385 Pohai Place in Aiea and identified as tax map key 99078-006. The former Aiea Sugar Mill site is owned by the city. In response to requests for proposals, EAH Inc. was selected to develop the project. The project includes approximately 139 affordable studio and one-bedroom units rented to individuals 62 years of age or older, with a household income of 60% or below of the area median income to Honolulu, with one unit reserved as a manager's unit. EAH and the city executed a ground lease dated October 6, 2023, which was recorded with the State Bureau of Conveyances, and a development agreement dated November 6, 2019, which was amended on July 18, 2024. The lease term is for 65 years, with the option to extend the lease term to a total of 75 years upon mutual agreement of EAH and the city. Construction of the project is completed, and a certificate of occupancy was issued for the project on August 13, 2025. Despite the developer's ongoing marketing efforts, there are vacant units in the project. They are therefore requesting an amendment to the ground lease to change the project's age requirement from 62 years of age or older to 55 years of age or older. The household income requirement will remain at 60% or below the area median income. EAH also proposes to amend the development agreement to change the termination date of the agreement to the date the project's certificate of occupancy was issued. Before I call up the administration, I would like to take public testimony. Proceeding first with in-person testimony in the chamber. Do we have any in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Are there any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, for the administration, we have Kevin Auger, Director of the Department of Housing and Land Management.
Good morning, Committee Chair Kiaʻāina and honorable council members, Chair Water and Vice Chair Tupola. I'm Kevin Auger. I'm the Director of the Department of Housing and Land Management. Firstly, I really want to sincerely thank the committee and Chair Kiaʻāina for adding this item to today's committee hearing as an addenda, and for considering the resolution, and thanking you for the opportunity to testify on Resolution 26-6. The resolution proposes amendments to the development agreement and the ground lease related to the Honolulu Senior Affordable Rental Housing Project located on city lands on the former IAEA sugar mill site. Chair Kiaʻāina, you've also already provided a terrific summary of Resolution 26-6. We just want to add that we received a request from the developer for these amendments in mid-November, and we worked diligently with the developer over the holiday season to get them in quickly. We had anticipated submitting them for the February committee hearings and agendas, but learned during the process that there were some covenants with respect to the financing package that could potentially negatively impact the project. And so we hurried it along to get it in as quickly as we could. So we apologize, I guess, in essence, for the quick nature of the requested turnaround. As you mentioned, the proposed resolutions modify the minimum age requirement for the project from 62 years to 55 years. I'd also like to note that the resolution does not change the affordability levels, the rents, the unit mix, or the length of affordability. It does not alter the city's land ownership, lease terms, or oversight of the project, and it does not convert the project to family or general occupancy housing. So everything else remains in place. It's specifically the age limits that we're referring to. DHLM respectfully recommends approval of the resolution, which will allow the Honolulu project to better serve the community without altering its use or affordability requirements. And we have representatives of EAH Development here in council chambers this morning to respond to any questions chair or council members may have regarding the project or the proposed resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I do have a question before I open up to questions. So how many units are vacant out of the total units available, and what is the percentage then?
Yeah, it's my understanding, it's a great question, Councilmember Kiaʻāina. It's my understanding that there are 31 units that remain, 39 units that remain vacant. But if the resolution passes, they have several potential lessees on their wait list that are 55 older that will occupy these units.
No, I understand. I'm just trying to understand first. I asked out of the total. So what are the total availability of units? 39 out of?
39 out of 139.
Okay, what percentage is that? Can someone do the math?
It's 71%. Let me see. Good question.
%28.
Yes.
And when did the units become available?
You want to speak to that? We're going to let the developer answer those questions, Council.
If you could come to the podium and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Quester Lau with EAH Housing. I'm the project manager for this development.
Okay, so when did the units first become available?
We received our certificate of occupancy from DPP in August of last year, and that's when lease-ups, people started moving in.
Okay, so it's August, right? So basically September, October, November, December, and you're throwing in the towel already?
Well, it's very important that we achieve lease-up by a specific time, and that's the reason why we're reaching out for assistance.
No, achieve what by a specific time?
It's important that we achieve 100% occupancy for this
Oh,
project.
that's ideal. We're dealing with a lot of problems for projects in the Keaumoku area. So I guess I'm trying to find out, is that the standard norm, that you've only been open for 4 months and then now you're going to decrease the age? I'm just asking. I just want to make sure that for those who are 62 and above, you can tell me that you endeavor to try to get people, but it's been only 4 months.
Our property manager has been doing a lot of outreach to contact seniors where they are. I think with this federal government, there's a lot of uncertainty, and what we're seeing is seniors are hesitant to make the transition and to be moving residents. There's a lot of uncertainty
Okay.
with subsidies and funding going on.
Okay, can I ask if this, were to move forward in the future, when future renters, this is a rental unit, yeah?
Yes.
Were to come in, would those 62 and older have priority over those between 55 and 62?
Well, what this amendment does, it allows us to serve a broader section of the community while remaining a senior project. So, for example, there were applicants who were not able to be qualified or move in because, for example, one spouse may be under 62. And the current rules require every member of the household to be 62 or older.
I understand that, but you still didn't answer my question. I understand the greater flexibility so that you can hit the 100% mark. My question is, in the future, I just want to make sure that, because 62 is there for a reason. So all I'm trying to say is, moving forward in the future, when things, where people feel more comfortable because of the uncertainty to move in, will those who are 62 and over get a priority for in the future, for future rental availability over those between 55 and 62? That was my question.
My understanding of the federal requirements that we are required to adhere to, that if we are making this change, that we proceed how we've described it in the documents, which is 55 and older would be the requirement.
Okay, but I have to tell you, I do have concerns over that because our target audience is the 62 and above. So even if you're not hitting 100% and you've only been open for 4 months, I'm worried about the future because 55 is low for me, right? And so one day we could get people who are 55 and they take up all the spots and there are no availability for those who are older. That's just my comment. But you answered my question, but I'm concerned about that. Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you. Yeah, I do think that without the ability to prioritize the older individuals that want to move in, that if we change this, then we will not have any say, any jurisdiction, any preference for our older kupuna. Before you guys considered changing the age, did you consider other factors that could be prohibiting people or potential obstacles of people renting, such as, I believe you guys are doing year leases, and then after your year lease, you guys go month to month. I know for some elderly that applied for your housing that they don't want to do that. They're older. they're not sure if they want to move in there for 1 year and then from month to month be concerned that they might have to be moved out. So before considering the age change, did you guys consider maybe the model of how you're doing the management?
I'm not a property manager, so I don't have all of the details. But we have been we do want to serve the community, and reducing this age does allow us to make the property available to more people. We're finding that a great number of residents 62 and older are still working, and that's similar challenges to people who are 55. We have a lot of folks struggling to afford rent.
Yeah, I think the point I was trying to make is that before we change the age, have we looked into other factors that are discouraging people from applying, such as limited leases, the 1-year lease, and then it says in the contract, then you will move month to month. So I just wanted to bring that up because I think, you know, we are trying to do these projects that comply with the federal funding. And because of that, we need to try everything we can do before then we say that our best move is now to change the age because we can do many other things. Maybe it's amenities. Maybe it's a club they need. Maybe they, you know, so I think like how Chair stated, you know, the study period of us studying whether or not this is working or not has been a very short amount of months. So there's many other factors that we could move around to see if we can improve the amount of people that want to come and live there that are within the right age. So just for consideration. Thank you, Chair.
Chair Waters.
Thank you so much. I too am concerned about the fact that you only gave it 4 months, but would it be a logical assumption that there isn't a need for housing for 62 and above if you're saying that you can't fill these?
Well, like I mentioned before, there's a lot of uncertainty going on with subsidies. And if a senior has a place now and they have subsidies in place, they may be unwilling or afraid to risk losing that and moving. I mean, it takes money to hire, you know, to move. You have to come up with another deposit. So it is, I think, a sign of the times. Not necessarily that there's no demand, because I think there is significant demand. I think there's just a problem of people understanding what resources they have available to them, what resources they can rely on the future. And a lot of that is now no longer a given.
Because we get lobbied and applications here for senior housing all the time. And if you can't fill them, I mean, maybe we should be building affordable housing at all ages instead of just seniors, right? I mean, you're saying there is a demand, but if we can't fill it, then that's a problem. Anyway, thank you. Just a comment.
Thank you. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. Hi, Quester. Thank you very much for being here. First off, are there other eligibility requirements that you folks considered instead of amending the age requirement?
We are offering lease-up special to help incentivize people to move in. We are reducing the deposit required because that is often a barrier to people to have to not get their money back from where they are now and have to come up with additional funds. There's also free rent that we're offering if they're able to move in January, February.
Okay, so first off, maybe let's go with what are the other eligibility requirements other than being 62 years and older?
There's an income requirement.
Mm-hmm.
So this project is 60% AMI and lower. We also have tiers for 30% and 50% area median income.
What are the other, among those different requirements, which ones are able to be amended like you are doing the age?
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand.
Are there any other eligibility requirements that you could look at amending versus the age limit? Age requirement?
As I understand it, the age requirement is also tied to a federal requirement.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, you can't discriminate against protected classes of people, and age is one of them.
Right.
For a senior project, we are allowed to do that because of the federal HOPA, and it ties to, 55 is a standard of that requirement as well. So it's not us arbitrarily saying, coming up with that number. It is tied to other standards.
Right. So as you know, Halewiliko is a plan within a bigger plan of the Aiea Town Center, right? And so Aiea is very proud of that one portion, but they want to know how much outreach is going on. So I have questions from our area legislators as well as our neighborhood board. Have you and your project team sent out mass mailings to the Aiea residents?
We haven't done mass mailings, and part of it is we want to focus the effort on personal contact. So our property manager has worked very closely with senior service organizations in the community instead of doing a generic message. Although we are including radio and midweek ads, we want to also have a very personal touch and focus on the organizations that do service seniors in the locality.
Okay. Just like another Aiea project like Honolulu, I know that they went on social media. I know that EAH has their Instagram. Maybe you could give that over to me and maybe Senator Elefante and Rep. Kong to disseminate that, but also provide. I know that with the, how many applicants were denied because they did not meet those eligibility requirements?
I don't have that number in front of me.
Okay, would you be able to get that to us, because my area legislators also asked. And if you could please share how many applicants have been received since EAH has changed their marketing for the project and the different units available.
I can share that we have a wait list of about 33 people who are 55 and older. So that gap that we're not able to serve right now. And then as was previously shared, there are 39 vacancies remaining in the project. So there is a...
Has there been a study done by EAH, or maybe Director Auger can answer this, about the necessity for and need for housing for 55 to 62? Has there been a study like that?
Not that I'm aware of, but for example, I can share that there are other projects who have either requested a similar age reduction or are 55 and are senior projects. This is not the first and the only one that has asked for that. So for example, Halewiolu senior residences on River Street, they started as 62 and they encountered a challenge leasing up. And so they are now at 55. There is Kokua Hale, which is another recent project in the same area.
Right.
We don't feel that it's exactly comparable to our project. Those, especially Kokua Hale, has very much smaller units, micro units. I think parking was also very constrained, and it's a different neighborhood. Halewiliko, as you know, is a residential neighborhood. There's 95 parking stalls, and so it's a very different feel to the neighborhood, and I think it has a different. It's a different neighborhood.
Absolutely.
There's also Mehe'uli Vista that is 55, Artesian Vista. Another recent project, Halemakana o Mo'iliili, is 55 and older. And there's a few others that are coming up.
Okay. And was the age requirement set by the city's RFP, or was it set by EAH when you partnered with the city?
I believe it was the city requirement initially.
It was initially a city requirement. Yeah. And then, and I know this might be a stretch for you to answer, but all those properties that you mentioned that are 55 and older, were those required by the city, or were they requested to lower? I know Halewiolu changed, but how about the other properties like Mehe'ula Vista, all the other ones that you mentioned? Kokua Hale?
I don't know the detailed history of those projects. I think Kokua Hale was a request to be lowered after lease up.
Okay, understood. All right, thank you. I do have other questions for the director later on. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cordero. It's an important dialogue because we get a lot of these things coming through, but it's an important question. So I'd like to ask, is it potential, because we have a lot of housing developments that come here that have X percentage at a certain AMI, for example, is it possible to require that 70% of all units in the building, because right now you're at 72%, must be for 62 or older, and that the remaining units could be 55? Do you know if that's possible?
Well, I think if you put out an RFP for that requirement, I will share that having the flexibility to have, to not have that as a hard requirement gives the property more flexibility to operate. So for example, if they have that constraint going forward, and for example, if they're not able to fill a unit, then that requirement would cause units to sit vacant rather than being allowed to be rented to somebody who may be 56 and is looking for a place and is able to qualify.
No, I understand, and I understand the flexibility, but it is possible. Do you see what my fear is? One day you're not going to get the majority of people who are 62, and you're going to get the majority of people in that building who are 55 to 62. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Good morning. My name is Marian Gushikin, also with EAH Housing. I hear what you're saying. I'm not a compliance specialist, but I don't believe that it's possible to have a 62 and older requirement as well as a 55 and older requirement. When we looked at this issue with our compliance and property management team, we understood that the definitions for senior housing require you to pick one or the other. However, to your point, I think it might be possible to include, with this age change to 55 and older, include a preference for 62 and older. Not an explicit requirement, but a preference.
That's what I had asked several minutes earlier.
Okay. We'll need to check it with our compliance team.
It was problematic.
There are concerns, but I think as long as we have a minimum age requirement of 55 and older that allows us to fill units so that they don't sit vacant, as you mentioned, along with a preference for households at 62 and older, I think that solves some of your concerns, as well as ours.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, I appreciate that. But I got to tell you, just because, again, you guys, I'm not so concerned about meeting an artificial deadline for 100%, because I just feel that you guys, it's not even 6 months, okay? And if this was an issue of concern, I feel that you guys should have come in to try to talk to some of the council members. But I really appreciate your clarification there. I know we have a couple of more. Can I, Councilmember Cordero, can I go to Councilmember Okimoto first? Then we're going to come back to both yourself as well as Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you, Chair. Really quickly, and thank you for the explanation. I just wanted to ask, from your understanding, what is the average age of the residents that currently reside in the
Currently,
property right now?
we're at 62 and above. I don't have in front of me the average age of the occupants, but it's over 62.
So from my experience, it's 79, which is much higher than 62 and not even close to the 55.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble.
From my experience, it's 79, the average age. That's currently what I understand it to be. And so that's another reason why I understand we don't want vacancies. I do have concerns that in us changing the age, that we're going to then limit the resources available for the 62 and older, because right now your average age in the units are 79. And I think we should be looking into what can we do to make sure that the residents who want to live there are willing to. It sounds like there's reasons, for one reason or another, that they're not willing or able, or they have concerns about moving over. So my main concern is that in us doing this, we may then not have units available for those who would like to, but for one reason or another have not been able to. I do want to thank you. I was able to attend the groundbreaking for this project, and I know the community was very excited, and I know they're on an historic piece of property right now, so we want to make sure that we support you the right way, but I think the council wants to make sure that we're doing it properly as well. Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Cordero or Tupola first?
Okay, I'll go first. Thank you so much for the comments made thus far. You know, I'm still on the whole, let's try to see if we can do the management better. You know, one of the things that one of the residents told me that lives there is that in order to get an AC unit, you have to get a doctor's note and then you get approved and then you can put it in. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm asking these questions because sometimes when we're trying to fill units, we don't know. And I have so many new buildings in my area, Kapolei, you know, every time somebody builds something new, we have to constantly like just pivot little portions of it until we can kind of get people to better understand the process, resolve concerns that are really resolvable. So I guess that was my question for you is, have you guys done any type of survey for people who weren't interested or that people gave you feedback on why it might be a little bit difficult? I brought up the whole, maybe the year lease and then month to month was not as advantageous for people who are older that might want to look for something more permanent. Maybe it's the AC. I'm not sure if you guys have taken that into consideration, but in the afternoon sun, it's super hot over there. So what are the surveys or feedback mechanisms that you guys have gotten to see if you guys can start to tweak things to kind of make it an area that's like amenable and now they're recommending their friends. It's always good when it's recommended, right? So people always do things when their friends or their family tell them to do it. So do you have any responses to that?
The property manager has been keeping track of reasons why people don't move in. Sometimes it's age. You know, there's a bucket for that. There's family situations. Some people are looking after other members of their family. They apply and their situation changes and they're not able to make that move. So they have to stay with their family. People have changes. Maybe it's not only people they're taking care of, but people who are looking after them. There are situations where they are not able to come up with a deposit. So there's a lot of different situations that aren't necessarily things that we can change in their lives.
I think I was just looking for suggestions people gave you about your own management, because obviously the extraneous variables we can't control. But if there was any feedback that people gave you guys about your management, I think those ones would be valuable because those ones are, you know.
That's partly why we're offering the concessions that we're offering now in the lease-up specials to address the concerns that we've heard.
And then with the number of units, I know various of them are like 8 studios, 30% below, 5 one-bedrooms, 30%. Is there any particular type of unit that's less appealing than others? I know in my district, I have a bunch of these buildings that certain units equal this. And so there's a certain type of unit that we never can sell because it's just nobody wants that price and that amount of bedrooms. Have you noticed any type of, because we have like a little graph that you guys gave us, any type that is just maybe not as appealing?
Well, studios are what's available now.
Oh, those are the vacant ones.
I think that answers what you're asking.
I see. So the studio ones are the ones that are harder to fill.
They're the ones that are available now.
Okay, yeah. Good to know. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. This may be for both Quester and thank you, Marion, for being here too, and for Director Alger. You know, of course, as I mentioned, it's very important for the IAA community to support this project. Of course, they had questions about how much EAH has provided in marketing, but at the same time, a part of the outreach and request for help is also going to the different groups that do support and have supported this project. And of course, I found out about this request when it was addendummed on the agenda. And I was with you guys at the property just at the end of the year. So it would have been great to know so that we could have properly reached out to, you know, Chair Wood and Claire and everyone to really show that they also need to help step up as in support, because this is AYA's greater vision for the AYA Town Center. And so if I didn't know and I let Senator Elefante and Rep. Kong know, and if they didn't know, it would have been just really great to have all hands on deck to show that maybe the discussion that we're having right now, we could have had with the community before coming to the council. So once again, and maybe I can direct it to Director Alger. Maybe that's a conversation that we could have had as well and have brought up, because I think that's a concern that we've had for a while, right? Like ensuring that we get these units filled. But there should be other eligibility requirements that we need to look at, and maybe it dials down to how our RFPs are issued out from the city level, whether it be the 55 or the 62 years old, because we have seen that we do offer that with different projects that the city on city land and city partnered. So I do want to note that I just wish that my community had more time to know about this. I know that you went to Director Alger in November. I saw you after that. So, Pastor Marion, let me know. I'm here. And Director Alger, I was with you too. Like, you should have let me know too, so I could have reached out to my community. But yeah, I tried my best at IA Neighborhood Board this week, which is how I got these questions. But just wanted to make that plea again. I don't want to keep having to play catch up and be on the defense. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cordero. Any other members before I make my recommendations? Because we are in discussion. Given the questions, which I believe are warranted, and the lack of time that we had to any of the members here to consider it, the chair will be recommending that action on resolution 26-6 be postponed until February 5th, 2025 at 9 a.m. Any discussion? Any objection or reservations? Am I correct? It's February 5th, correct? Okay, so any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to agenda item number 4, informational briefing, presentation by the Department of Planning and Permitting on CIVCHECK, its new AI-guided software designed to pre-check residential building permit applications. Joining us in the council chamber is Don Takeuchi Apuna, Director of the Department of Planning and Permitting, who will be providing a brief presentation on CIVCHECK. For your information, the presentation is available online as Miscellaneous Communication 28, 2026.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for this opportunity to provide an info briefing on CIVCHECK, which is our new artificial intelligence used in the building permit review process. We're going to start with a very short video about CIVCHECK.
Across the country, one of the biggest reasons housing and development get delayed is the permitting process. A big part of the problem is incomplete or inconsistent submissions. When an application is missing information or doesn't quite line up with what the city requires, it gets sent back for additional revisions. Often, this happens multiple times before construction can even begin. CIVCHECK was built to solve this problem at its core for both applicants and cities. With CIVCHECK's guided AI plan review software, applications are quality checked before they ever reach a city reviewer. That means fewer surprises, faster approvals, and a permitting process that's faster, clearer, and far more predictable for everyone involved. To begin, CIVCHECK walks applicants through a structured pre-check process that mirrors how the city reviews their permits. The platform starts at permit intake, verifying forms and required documents, and continues through a comprehensive plan review across all triggered review disciplines. Applicants are guided through what information to include and where. Missing or incorrect information is flagged immediately. Applicants learn what the city expects, why it matters, and how to fix issues in real time. This reduces confusion, follow-up questions, and unnecessary back and forth with city staff. CIVCHECK covers more than 95% of the checks that commonly apply to projects and reflects the city's latest codes and processes. AI is used to guide applicants step by step, while still allowing for full oversight and human expertise. The result is a more predictable experience. Applicants can submit with confidence, knowing their permit is complete, compliant, and ready for review. For cities, CIVCHECK accelerates permit processing without replacing human judgment or expertise. By the time an application enters the city's workflow, CIVCHECK has already guided the applicant to verify required documents, highlight key information on the plans, and resolve common code compliance issues. Plan reviewers no longer have to spend time identifying basic errors or missing information. Instead, they can quickly validate the applicant's work and focus their expertise where professional judgment truly matters. As codes and standards change, CIVCHECK is updated accordingly. This ensures applicants and reviewers are always working from the same current set of requirements, reducing inconsistency and interpretation gaps. The result is faster reviews, less rework, and more permits processed annually. The impact of CIVCHECK is measurable and significant. On average, plan review times are reduced by 70%. In our partner cities, reviews that once took over an hour now take as little as 15 minutes with the same level of city oversight, and each permit goes through up to 4 fewer review cycles. These improvements translate directly into faster housing delivery and economic development, more efficient use of city resources, and a more transparent process. CIVCHECK enables consistent application of city rules, faster and more predictable outcomes, greater transparency and fairness, and ultimately, stronger public trust in the permitting process.
Okay, so, and now we can just quickly go through our PowerPoint, but hopefully that video gave you a really quick understanding of CIVCHECK. So CIVCHECK was definitely put into place to help address some of our permitting goals. One of which was to speed up permit issuance and cut the overall time from initial submission to approval. Second goal, make the permit process easier to navigate, reduce the incomplete applications, rework and repeat review cycles, and create an efficient method for assessing plan adequacy prior to full plan review. And number 3, equip staff to succeed. Enhance staff capacity through improved tools, education, and training. So the problem that CIVCHECK is meant to address is permitting taking too long. We receive poor quality submissions of missing documentation, missing information, and code issues, which result in 3 to 6 review cycles or more. The reviewing of plans is complex, and it's important to understand what applies to the project, where is the relevant information on plan, and is this information sufficient and compliant? So this is our proposed solution and the very basic timeline of how it all happened. In 2024, we moved completely over to e-plans or electronic plans from paper, which was kind of the preliminary step that needed to happen. And then in 2025, as you know, we implemented H&L Build, which is a clarity solution to replace our POSSE system. And in late 2025, we were able to launch CIVCHECK as the pre-check and plan review prior to building permit application. CIVCHECK's guided AI plan review, it's an AI-assisted permit preparation for applicants that begins prior to submission for the building permit application. And it also works on DPP side as a co-pilot for plan reviewers, which helps to guide staff and to provide some training. And this is our implementation plan. We basically completed phase 1. That was for the residential permits module. That's single and 2-family projects. We went live in November of last year, and now we're working on development with CIVCHECK for phase 2 for commercial permit modules. And that is set to go live in the summer of 2026. That's for commercial, actually all commercial projects, but it will help to make sure that the applications come in as complete as possible. So the residential module that's already in place, it was implemented under 20 weeks, and it addresses single-family, two-family, duplex ADUs, all new construction additions and alterations. It looks at more than 245 regulations or checks, and it spans over 8 different review groups, such as residential code and traffic, etc. And so it supports more than 45 reviewers. And then on the right, it shows you the different review groups: stormwater, wastewater, fire, traffic. This is just some feedback from different professionals that are using CIVCHECK. And again, as the video had mentioned, we've seen a 70% reduction in review time based on CIVCHECK. And that is our very quick presentation. Right now, since we opened it up to the public on a voluntary basis, we've received 17 applications. Those are still in process, and it's a good time for us to look at what's holding it back. So November, it's been a couple of months, and so some of the things that are holding up these projects are sometimes the payment isn't provided quickly, or it might be other agency reviews. But for the most part, they seem to be going very quickly through pre-screen, just one review, which is a major change where people kind of get caught up in the pre-screen. We also did have a pre-screen backlog for a bit, but the applications just for pre-screen alone seem to be well done. And then we're just looking at now evaluating how it's going through the rest of the review, and just kind of letting things shake out and make some changes based on that. From there, once we have everything settled, we will make it a mandatory review for all residential applications of these types of projects, which we think will definitely show great, vast improvement in review times, and hopefully, one review cycle, maybe 2 at most. So that's my presentation, and I'm open for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. So for now, it's residential, and then you're going to be moving to commercial when again?
By summer of 2020.
By summer, okay. On the residential, I'm looking, so with regard to the new law that allows for both a ADU and a HANA unit on top of the single-family home, they would be able to utilize this as well, correct?
Correct.
Because it could possibly be 3 units, but it meets the confines of eligibility. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Members, any questions? Chair Waters.
Thank you. Good morning, Director. Hey, I'm looking at your slide deck, and it's the Phase 1 residential model slide. Could you just explain that a little bit more? On the right-hand side, it says review group, and then you have permit intake, residential land use, zoning, stormwater quality, portable water supply, wastewater, fire, and traffic. And then on the right-hand column, the number of checks. Can you explain a little more detail what that is?
Sure. So for a typical residential project, these review groups are the groups that would look at that project. And the number of checks as far as like code requirements for each of those groups, that's a typical number of checks. So for permit intake, that's on the, that would be like pre-screen as well as all the documentation that's required. That would all be required, about 102 different items. And then under residential and land use, about 68 different, code-related requirements that need to be met, et cetera.
Oh, interesting. And then the CIVCHECK, say just for permit intake, there's 102 checks. How many of those 102 are done by CIVCHECK?
So actually, all of these.
All of them?
Yeah.
Oh.
So there's a pre-screen is, the thing that we've been talking about for a long time with the backlog, the formatting. CIVCHECK serves to be like a pre-review. So it's two different things, but it does cover pre-screen. I mean, CIVCHECK covers pre-screen. So these are all the different checks that CIVCHECK makes sure is already fulfilled before it's submitted as a building permit application.
I see. So do the building permit applications still have to be transmitted to, say, Board of Water Supply or Fire Department?
They do, but we're based on, pre-checked and basically certified by CIVCHECK. It should be a really quick review.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I know in the past that could have added on to the permitting time when it was transferred out of DPP to another department. So how many of these review groups are actually in your office? I mean, obviously Board of Water Supply is not in your office, neither is Fire. But what is the traffic review and what is the wastewater review?
So wastewater and traffic are within DPP.
Okay.
So yeah, those are just basic checks, and they would be routed to those different branches for review. But related to that, we're looking at how CIVCHECK is operating, and we notice, for example, like stormwater, there seems to be a check that maybe we might be able to have CIVCHECK kind of check for rather than coming through, because it seems to be a standard one that's coming up. So this is part of the process to see what needs to shake out and what we could address and streamline even more. I think there's a stormwater check that is requiring, they're looking at it and saying, okay, come back with this. And our whole goal is to just make one review cycle. So we don't want to have steps where it's going to automatically require a second review cycle. So things like that we're definitely looking at and working on and trying to make it more efficient.
I mean, obviously, this would need a stormwater check for a new construction, but if you're doing like a bathroom or a kitchen, do you still need to get the stormwater check done?
Generally, I don't think you do. If you're not, doing anything to the surfaces outside of an established footprint, I don't believe you do. So it just depends.
Yeah. Okay, terrific. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Tupola?
Thank you so much, Chair. Aloha, Director. Okay, I have a few questions. Thank you, Chair Waters, for teeing that up. I'm on the same page. I'm on the numbers page. So with the permit intake at 102, is there any way that we can consolidate, get this number down from 102 to less? Are some of them outdated that maybe we're checking and we don't need to check anymore? What is your thoughts there?
We can definitely look at that and see what that is. But yeah, it is a lot. I think it also speaks to just the complexity of projects to some extent. There's just many different things that it's looking at. It's at least the 11, pre-screen items of
Right.
the 102, and it's probably just documentation for other things and other requirements. But I totally understand what you're saying. This is the time and opportunity for us to look at those things and see if we can downsize the number of checks.
Right. Some of them might be slightly duplicative, or they just might be, back in the day we used to, but we don't need to do that now. I mean, I do think if we can get that number down, then we're helping ourselves out, right? Checking less things that maybe before we check that we don't need to do now. My other question was in regards, and I also think this is a savvy way of doing it, because this is before you submit. It's almost like you're going to a tutor or you're getting someone to look at your paper before you turn your paper in, right? We want people to get feedback so that they're not stuck in the eternal loop of permitting, right? So this is good. However, I think with the H&L build, when you guys switched over, and I know this is separate, right? Because we're trying to say, okay, use this so you can prepare yourself before you enter H&L build. So with the H&L build and I'm going to be very specific with the solar industry, because you guys had to reroute them around the H&L bill because it was something they couldn't use. How how is that all going to work out? You know, and I'm sorry for bringing that up. I know it's not CIVCHECK, but like after you get through this, my issue is that people are still like, H&L Build is so difficult for me. It doesn't have this, it doesn't have that. And I know it's new. I know it's, I believe Salesforce is the tool you guys are using. So could you just give me a little insight there?
Sure. Yeah, I think that was definitely part of the process. For example, the solar industry, because we did have an automatic instant solar permit, but we worked through that. And again, that's part of the process. You implement it and you run it and things start to shake out and we address it. So even that solar, we've addressed it. It's as good, if not better, than what it was with Posse. So it's just a matter of continual refinement that we can address things like that with H&L Build as well as CIVCHECK.
Perfect. And I do like the quotes that you have because, you know, I do get a lot of your DPP workers contacting me, telling me what's hard, why we did this. And, you know, I kind of reroute them, or sometimes if it's pertinent, I'll bring it up in my discussions. But I really want to make sure that whatever we do is also easy for the DPP workers. We're not trying to like make their lives worse because, you know, we do already have a big backlog of people that didn't get to have this help before. So I think anytime you can include that, like, hey, it's working for our staff. They said it's easier. Like, I would appreciate that because I don't want us to be passing laws or doing things that are making it more laborious or more confusing. We all need to be on the same page.
Yeah, totally agree. You know, staff, as much as we can empower them and make things easier for them is our goal.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Director. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the video and for your presentation. And I'm really grateful. I'm hopeful. I know that this has not been an easy transition, but I have faith that you guys are doing your best. I do want to say, though, my office still gets constituent complaints or concerns that this is not helping them. The process times are still very lengthy. It hasn't seemed to help them. So if you can help me understand what my office and I can do, what's the disconnect, what's the issue, so we can help with the process as well.
No, thank you for that question. And we, you know, I was actually surprised that we've only gotten 17, since November, 17 applications for CIVCHECK. You know, most of our building permit applications are residential, and we haven't seen a lot of people take advantage of this. So I would suggest that a lot of the designers and professionals out there, that they go to our website. It's under a little drop down under, on our homepage, and there's a CIVCHECK, and they can register and they can try it out. There's no obligation, there's no cost, but it will give them the opportunity to submit through that, the process, or at least see how it works. You know, they're not committed even if they run their plans through it. They don't have to go forward, but I think it will really open their eyes to how this tool can benefit themselves as well as their customer. So again, it's at some point it's going to be mandatory, but we would like to see more people try it out. But this is the one part of our overall technology, the game changer, that we believe will help not just the applicants, the designers, but our staff too.
Okay, thank you for that. I'd have to go double check on, you know, the numbers in my district specifically, but I think they are trying to use CIVCHECK and they are trying to go through the process, and it still hasn't been easier or more efficient. So if they do go on and they're still saying that there's issues, what can we do to help?
And let us know. Like, we're willing to look at the specific projects. It does feel like it takes longer, obviously, to prepare your application when you're going through CIVCHECK, but I think that makes sense. You put in all the good work, you know, long work in the beginning, and it'll go much faster through the regular process. But please, yeah, let us know, and we can reach out and just see what the issue is, because we do believe this is working, but there might be some issues with just the, you know, how the application process. And like I said, it's during this time we're trying to just address all these little things to make it run smoothly.
Okay, so the best way is to call or email? What's the best way to get help from your office?
There is an email. Oh yeah, they can email just our H&L Build email account right now, hnlbuild@honolulu.gov, and then we'll route it and look at those specific issues.
Okay, thank you very much, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Director. Just in preparation for next month's hearing, we'll probably want to see an update on the permitting processes like we normally do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will now proceed with public testimony. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Do we have any remote testifiers?
We have Angela standing by.
Angela, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I'll keep it short. I just want to say I'm in support of this software program. And so because AI functions can integrate data and provide objective feedback free from emotion and prejudice, and it produces quality results every single time, where humans can't produce quality results every single time. So, you know, from the applicant side, the plan may not meet the county's criteria to be eligible to be able to get to the next step in the process. And if the AI software has the capacity to read the error that happened, it can push forward procedures without dragging on the process at the first stage of the eligibility criteria. So if the plan is unable to go to the next step, it fails and has to start over, and that's very stressful. And so this software process, I think it catches errors and helps with reducing stressful interactions between county's workers and the public. So this pre-screening is very necessary to stop unnecessary stress for staff and for the public. And across the state, AI integration with government processes are being examined. For example, one of the offices I work with in my capacity as chair of organizing 8 exhibits for kids and teens for a statewide event, Hawaii Children and Youth. The Attorney General's office that I work with provided feedback in the Senate Consumer Protection about what the office is doing to protect youth and kids from predatory online AI, ChatGPT programs in DOE schools, safeguarding online.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
So I'm all about AI integration. Thank you. I'm really just a fan of AI integration. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. Members, if there are any further discussion, thank you for being here today. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.